and is now in a downtrend. So the goal will be to buy or to long the bearish retests that the index will give, hopefully give. Doesn't look like it today, of course. The drop has been quite intensive and sharp, also because of news yesterday, a series of bullish news. But it also shows how fast the market can return, right? When everything seems bearish, only a few days or weeks, everything can basically change. So it looks interesting. I don't think the top is in yet for the market. In fact, I think it's quite a mistake to assume that the pump is done a day after it really began, right? I think there's a lot of sidelined money that is that has been waiting to enter the market and is waiting for their opportunity for a pullback. So I think entries should be a bit more aggressive now that especially that USDT dominance has broken its uptrend. But I think we will get our opportunities. So I'm happy with the profits so far. We'll have been looking for new setups earlier today. Shared my thoughts on a few indexes like others and USDT dominance, and I think that's the way I will approach the market moving forward. Hey, Rego, good to see you.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, DB. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, man. How you doing?
We're good. We're good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Was just giving a brief intro and an overview of my thoughts on the market right now, as we were waiting for you.
Nice, nice. What are we thinking?
Well, looks way better, right, than a few weeks ago. In fact, on Thursday, on my solo stream, I was talking to people, members, on how significantly better Bitcoin looked than in the previous weeks, and there are certainly some signs for a change of trend. I think for many indexes that is already confirmed, and I think
Oh, we may have lost DB. DB, you there? Womp womp. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Testing? Nobody can hear me. What the fuck? Okay, so you guys can hear me, but you can't hear DB. DB, try rejoining if you can hear this. That's weird. That's weird. Have to pick your output?
can you hear me now, guys?
I can hear you. Anybody here?
And I
All
can
right, we're
hear you
heard. Okay, that was super super spooky. Conspiracy, Microsoft conspiracy. Don't want us to talk about the market.
now. I don't know what you guys heard.
Um, you're talking about your thoughts on the market, and then you just kind of like like you just kind of like dissolved into the darkness.
Yeah, and I just want one important aspect to discuss is that we kind of expected good news to emerge yesterday after what U.S. Treasuries and bonds did, right? They had a significant sell-off after we didn't get any new headlines about trading deals, and I was talking to members about how we could see some bullish headlines coming in to save the markets, basically just what we had a few days ago as well, right? When stock markets dropped, nobody really cared apart from retail. But when stuff got serious with U.S. bond and treasury markets dropping, then Trump announced a 90-day pause for tariffs, and it's basically the same scenario right now, or yesterday at least. We've got a significant sell-off in treasuries. these markets didn't look as good, and then we have Trump downplaying trading tensions with China and saying that he has no intention in firing Powell. So yeah, I mean, I understand why this has been done and why at this point, but
Well,
just to understand the
n-
mechanics behind this
no
move.
no intention of firing Powell. First and foremost, he can't. He can't. He doesn't have the authority to do so. So that's just like it's pretty much a nothing burger, right? When he says he has no intention of firing him, I mean he couldn't in the first place. So
Yeah, but he's been quite vocal, right, about the need to
he's always
remove
like
Powell,
that, though. He's always
looking
been
for.
like that. He always will be. But does he actually have the authority to do so? No, he never did. So um, for people to be reacting on that, it seems kind of like it seems more like a lack of information, right? Like we know for a fact he
Yeah,
can't.
it is a lack of information. Absolutely,
Yeah,
I agree.
he has no authority to do that, anyways. But will does he have the authority to play? Or not the authority, I should say, but does he have the influence to direct the market in a certain fashion? Absolutely. That's a bit more of a gray area. Not necessarily any authority or power he has to tamper with markets, but definitely the influence. Of the president of the United States and the words he says has some heavy implications. If we could already tell since January 20th, right? It's been chaos every single day. And some will find that, as a positive, some will find it as a negative. In between, markets don't like it because it creates this environment that does not give us a clear picture. But when you don't have a clear picture, we tend to look for um, is everything still checking out as it should? And by that we mean is business still business as usual for a lot of these companies? For fuck, man. Uh, I forgot what I wanted to say, but it's is it business still usual for these companies? Have they lost any revenue? Is there any implications with the data been given over the past 2-3 months that could suggest a weaker forecast? And the answer is somewhere once again, it's a bit muddied. I can't be the one to deny that, but if we're going based off every metric we needed to assume over the past 3 years, I'd say we've been doing pretty well despite everything. Of course, the tariffs created, in my opinion, a very, very like I want to say the word black swan because black swans are usually unpredictable. This one was like rather predictable. It kind of told you, gave you the heads up, but still, nonetheless, the price action resembled one of those, and we're getting a response. At least I'm looking at ES futures, right, which is again I think a big reason why um, we've been moving very well today, or at least into Asian session, right? New York
Mhm.
session, sorry. A lot of that is just really due to SPX futures in the aftermarket doing quite well, and the structure looks all right. I mean, it's gotten its 20% drop. I would say the next big test is somewhere towards 57.20. Somewhere around here. That's going to be the real deciding factor. But as everything stands, um, we've gotten a drop. I think 20%. Anything more than that, expecting anything more than that, might at this point be seen as a bit unlikely. Especially the way the talks have been going, especially the way the headlines have been flowing. It seems more likely that these tariff things are going to be short term. Going into the summer, we're most likely expecting rate cuts. We're most likely going to expect negotiation with a number of countries around the world. So again, like, is the worst behind us? Unless something were to be, a bit more unprecedented and further escalation, which I don't think is going to happen. Um, I think we're in the clear path for a pretty decent summer. If we get our rate cuts, if we get our negotiations, not just pauses, we want like real deals to be conducted here. I think we'll be given the green light here. I'm you guys know me on the crypto side of things. I've made my purchases on this entire drop, so I have and DB's heard it a million times over the past 6 months that or even the past 2 to 3 months that I think this is just another typical correction, and I'm starting to see signs of that. So again, like I have reason to believe that this summer is going to be quite hot, no pun intended. But our summers are typically much slower. But if we're going to get lower rates going into June, July, maybe 2 consecutive months in a row, I think we've already begun to move in anticipation of this. Plus some sort of agreement or deal established that is a lot better than what it was 3 months ago or 2 months ago. So this is where I'm standing on this. But as far as everything goes, I think the market just wants to see no more turmoil, no more turbulence, and it will continue business as usual, which is something me and DB have been saying for a long time. You don't want to bet against large
Yeah.
indexes and large market caps because on a regular basis once that turmoil and panic is done, it should continue its natural course of action, right, which is to grow and to expand and gain
We
overall.
always said we always said don't bet against the U.S. economy, right? We always saw this as an opportunity to enter at least majors, right? Like when I say majors on the crypto side, obviously I mean Bitcoin and some major stocks. Now with altcoins, it's always a bit more complicated because they're riskier. Some will erase the downtrend, some will not, right? But when it comes to majors and you see a 22% drop in the S&P 500, you start thinking about more long-term positions. And I think that's what we did. I think we were quite excited about the opportunities that we got and people that joined our calls. I think benefited from that positive energy that we have, right?
Yeah.
From our words of comfort as well. And in times that weren't as easy. If you look at the lower time frame price action, it wasn't easy because it was like a significant sell-off in all markets, and you had a market where you had consistent headlines that interfered with the price action. So it wasn't really easy, but I think we did a pretty good job in understanding what it means on a higher time frame, right? And we try to communicate it as good as possible. And I know that many people benefited from that as well. So that's what makes me happy. In terms of the market, I would personally say, Rego, that the dip that we had earlier this month, where the S&P 500 dropped to 4,800, I would make a bet that that's the worst that we have that we see in a while. It doesn't mean that headlines cannot come back, but I think that's the worst because that was a peak retail capitulation. If you look at the Wix index as
Yep.
well, that was very high. That was like retail capitulating on stocks and in the crypto market as well. So it's very unlikely that something can happen that can bring that back again, at least not in the short term. I don't think that tariff tensions are entirely gone yet, right? What we have right now is Trump suggesting that they're close to signing deals, which are very, very important to be signed, and I'll get to the why in a minute. But we don't really have any deal yet, right? But the thing is that we had a 90-day pause that was announced that led to a significant pump in the markets. Now, what led to a pump, or one of the reasons that led to a pump, is Trump's team suggesting that they're close to signing deals and that the tariffs on China may not be as high as suggested before. They will not be zero, is what they said, but they will also not be 145%. And yes, this has been a catalyst for the market, but also something that creates new expectations, right? So the market now expects these deals to come in, and the longer it takes for these deals to come in, I think the more impatient people start to get again, and more sensitive the market gets towards headlines regarding trading tensions. So I think it's time to see at least a few deals. Maybe not with China. I think that's going to take a bit more time because of the strong position of both parties. But even like a trading deal with the EU or Japan would be pretty good, and would also assure the market that what Trump's team has been hinting in the last few days is actually is factual, right? It's not just there to save the markets, but they're actually working on the deal. So we need to see a few signs that deals are coming in, and I think that should also be good for interest rates in the next few weeks, because the more deals come in, the less uncertainty there's about inflation rising because of high tariffs, right? And the more likely Jerome Powell is also to drop interest rates in the next few months.
Yeah, I agree with these points. I also want to throw out there that the last time I've ever had a president tell me that your market will recover and now is a great time to put your money where your mouth is. I have yet to be proven wrong, or I've yet to see that go against him. I want to say not even a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or what, 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Tells you it's a great time to buy. market's been doing very, very well since that day. So again, I find that hilarious, that we pretty much got insider trading from the president himself. I thought that was a really good point to add. So I'm just answering living off the grid because quite literally, it's it's been a steady track up. As far as like macroeconomics go and like global markets go, again it's a sensitive topic. Every single day, new escalations come out. It takes two to tango, right? And in this case, it takes a whole dance floor, which is pretty much every nation in the world. So again, I think it's in everybody's best interest. Me and DB, we're optimists on the situation. We don't think anything's ever gonna become a doomsday scenario. So we're optimists on the situation. We've been saying this for quite a while that we don't expect these to be long term. We don't expect this to persist. They're merely just bargaining chips, as DB would say, quote unquote. It's a
Yeah,
leverage tactic, right? It's for nations to get a better deal for the interest of their economy and their own people, right? And that goes both ways. It's the Chinese don't want to lose. U.S. is a business partner. The U.S. definitely don't want to lose a lot of the manufacturing that China provides, because it is essential to some extent to cut these off just out of nowhere and suddenly can seriously forget about markets for a second. Just from an economic standpoint, that lack of supply can cause some serious implications and repercussions on people's quality of life and living habits. So it's in everybody's best interest, right, to not lose sudden trade routes and massive deals with arguably their biggest trade partner, right? The U.S. is a big buyer of supplies, and then they also provide their own supply of particular things, right? So again, it's in everybody's best interest to kind of cooperate. Have they been a bit unfair over the past few years and what they're charging? I think so, and I'm pretty sure the reason why you see a deal coming up sooner rather than later is because I think everybody realizes that as well. I think the U.S. demands are a bit ridiculous, but at the same time, I do believe they're in a position to compromise and just get something overall better. So that's what I think they're working towards. That's what I think they're going to get. And the market, if it was already performing the way it was, but before new deals were made, right, that benefit the U.S., then you could just only imagine what happens after this is done, right? So you got to be thinking a bit ahead in this situation. Now, either you're an optimist, you're a pessimist. Pessimist thinks that this is the start of something much greater, World War III, end of the world. And in that case, like, why even care about anything, right? Or you're an optimist and you try to look for a solution. Again, there are multiple countries involved, and every country, has their best, their people's best interest at heart, allegedly. And that is the more rational and logical approach, is to assume that there's, some sort of agreement. Maybe not everybody's going to be happy at the end of it, but something's got to give, and that's the side I lean on. So every little bit of turmoil is nothing more than an overreaction, in my opinion, irrational and illogical, especially if you have retirement funds and stuff like this, where your entire portfolio is based on the overall health of the U.S. To bet against it is to essentially say, pretty much the end of the first world as you know it, right? So I don't see that as logical. I see that as thinking in the moment, and I don't think it makes much sense. Now that I think we've covered macro pretty well, DB. I mean, we have a pretty slow week. There's nothing on my radar that I think should be discussed, right?
no,
Bunch of little numbers in specific sectors. I don't think that affects the
no.
overall bulk of what we do.
There are a
um,
few earnings, and maybe
and
just
jobless, um,
jobless claims are
every
shared
week.
every week.
Yeah,
That's not
exactly.
so important. What I find really interesting is that there have been a few earnings reports, and there will be in the next few days. But Tesla was quite interesting yesterday. I don't know if you followed that, but their earnings were like suggesting that profits have been declining by 70%. So they really missed their profits or their expectations by a lot. But the price of the stock didn't really react. And that is very interesting because I think that this shows that markets have been pricing in a certain slowdown in the US economy due to tariffs, right? And if you look at the stock of Tesla, for instance, in the last few days and weeks, it's been basically down only, right? Just like most stocks. So if you get numbers that suggest that US corporations are not doing as well as expected, and the price of the stock does not move at all to the downside. I think it's quite fair to assume that a lot of these recession speculations have been priced in to a certain extent, right? And this is also one point why I personally think that unless the macro doesn't completely change, that the dip that we got to 4,800 was the macro bottom. If you look at technical indicators, that suggests the same. Basically, the RSI, for instance, on the 1 week, it was oversold on Nasdaq and the S&P 500 and major stocks. So I think I said it a few weeks ago, Rego. I'm not sure if I was in the stream with you, but I said we can thank Trump for two things, right? You can hate him, you can love him. It doesn't matter. We are traders. We don't have political views when it comes to our trading setups. But there are two things that you can love him for. That's first, being the number one reason why Bitcoin reached a new all-time high at 110K, and for also providing us with this dip opportunity, either in the stock markets or in the crypto market. So these are two things that are completely related to him and his action, or at least his administration's actions, that that we need to mention. But yeah, in terms of data releases, there's not much. These earnings reports, but I don't think they will interfere with the market that much. So we will see what will go on with these negotiations on trading deals. And obviously, the sooner we get news about that, the better for the market.
If I'm not mistaken, right? They appointed a new. If I'm not mistaken, they appointed the new SEC chair, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, the
All
crypto
right, so
friendly one.
yeah, so he's more of like a pro Bitcoin guy. I've been hearing a lot of murmurs and chirping about some sort of, and don't quote me on this because I can't remember, but I remember seeing a few headlines regarding solutions to purchase Bitcoin via generated income. How will they do this? I'm not sure. I think we're expecting some sort of bond introduction, right? I know this is in the talks. I know it's in their best interest to do this. So I'm assuming this is going to be something on the table within the next 3 to 6 months. If I remember correctly, right, when we watched that whole crypto segment with what the fuck was his name, man? There's too many politicians these days. What the hell was his name, man? You remember when they were just talking stablecoin, like every
Yeah,
five
I don't know.
seconds? What the hell is
Yeah,
his
but
name?
I'm not sure. But it was that press conference with like three or four people on stage, right?
Yes,
Is
and
that what you?
they all look like proud fathers, and they were.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So again, they said within 90 days they'd have some sort of introduction, or at least some sort of paperwork, to move forward with. So I know we're appearing. I know we're getting closer and closer to that eventual legislation or introduction, and I can guarantee you that behind the scenes they are looking for the most cost efficient and reasonable way to add to this strategic Bitcoin reserve that they've been talking about. So I know that's around the corner. And again, I am a believer, right, of this being the first real sell-off, and with that comes an extended leg here, which I'm assuming is going to be way higher than 110K. And for that to happen, you're going to need some sort of catalyst like this. So I know we're close. I know we're around the corner. I know this is on the books and on the talks. I just don't know how it's going to be introduced or how they plan to do it. But it's definitely something to speculate on. I know the market will. So again, we tend to forget because a lot of it has been clouded but by the recent events over the past few months. But we have arguably the most pro crypto administration we've had since inception. I don't think there's ever been a government that's with this much authority and influence that's ever discussed our markets on a day-to-day basis, like we've seen. Every other government we've had since pretty much Bitcoin and crypto was invented either played it off as some sort of laundering tactic, some sort of scam, anything that you could think of negatively was how it was introduced. Whereas this one is kind of proactive and looking for ways to incorporate it in their, I guess, their operations. Over the past few months, we've seen a number of cases being dropped against arguably every single exchange, every single I want to say firm, assuming they haven't done anything malicious. Most of these cases have been dropped. They're nonsensical in a court of law, and that's helped our industry a lot, right? Because we want ideally what we want to see is that there's some sort of black and white rule set for businesses and corporations to operate in the United States, which is what I think we're seeing. It's going to invite business back, especially in our industry, back into one of the biggest economies in the world. So again, I think over the past few months, despite all the turmoil, despite all the left, right, up, down, center, we've seen a lot of progress. Even though it doesn't account for much, when prices go down, these things mean nothing to people. But realistically, it's starting to create the structure and foundation that I think we need to see for this next leg. Because I'm still a believer of a next leg. I don't think this is a bearish retest. Um, I
No,
think
no, no, no.
I think we look really good. It's just it gets difficult to stomach. Every correction, every leg down never feels fun. It feels like the end of the world every single time. And by now, if we have any two-time market cycle participants, you can see how every correction kind of has its own narrative involved, and it always feels
There's always
entirely
something,
different.
right?
There's
Yeah.
always something. There's always something, and it never gets easier. But at the end of the day, you just got to trust your drawdowns and where you sit in the overall scheme of things. I'm still a believer again that we just went through our first real aggressive sell-off. And again, with everything surfacing, lower rates coming, most likely the worst being priced in as far as tariffs go, and then also solutions for the said Bitcoin reserve that was announced. I want to say a month ago, maybe even almost 2 months ago. Time flies when it's like this. We have a lot cooking under the surface, right? So it can get really insane really quickly. The only thing we need to look out for really is end of the world escalations. So what do I mean by this? The craziest thing you can expect, the most unlikely of things to expect, something like China attacks Taiwan type shit. Like that's shit we can't predict. If something like that were to happen, I assume people would absolutely shit their pants. But this is speculation, right? I don't see it happening. I don't think it'll happen. But the only thing that would change my tune is something like that, and that's why I'm saying it. It would need to be way out of left field for me to assume anything is going to be different about this cycle coming up. But yeah, I like those are my thoughts. Like
Yeah, just to add on top of that, even in 2018, the US and China didn't reach an agreement for a year, but that didn't mean that markets dropped for a year, right? The most problematic part was the first few months. I believe it was 3 months of downtrend for the S&P 500, and then up only despite the US and China not achieving an agreement. I would expect something very similar, right? As I said, I don't. I would be surprised if they reach an agreement very quickly because of the strong positions that both countries have. But I think the worst in terms of stock market is behind us. That surprising fact after Liberation Day that tariffs were actually higher than expected. Remember, on April 2nd, people started speculating that tariffs won't be so bad, and then Trump came up with that list of very high tariffs and just kept increasing them, especially on China. And that was like the aha factor, right? The catalyst that led to this significant drop. I don't see that happening now. Markets are more prepared about what's going on. It doesn't create the same level of fear that it did before. So I would make a bet that we have the worst behind of us in terms of the stock markets. But even in the crypto market, what I've usually been telling people in the last few weeks is that every pump that we had from oversold areas was a relief rally, right? In a downtrend, which meant that we will print lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. And you need to take profits when you print these lower highs. I think even from a technical standpoint, you can see that there's a change of trend in the market. I've said it a bit at the beginning of the stream. But to highlight it again, if you look at Bitcoin, for instance, last week, it was consolidating nicely above the diagonal trend line that had been serving as a resistance area, right? And even the daily RSI flipped that 50 zone as well, which kept the upside potential for Bitcoin and the rest of the market as well. So it is now above that 50 area on the daily RSI. and has also been able to reclaim previous range lows around 90, 91K, which is also a very positive sign. I see a bit of a I see a bit of a resistance at 95, 96K on more lower time frames, so wouldn't aggressively be looking for longs under that level. But as long as these previous range lows hold, I think we've got a very good looking structure for Bitcoin, and eventually altcoins will follow as well. But I think it's quite healthy if you see Bitcoin dominance rising and leading the pump, and then we get another catch up phase at some point where alts go crazy, just like in November last year or in March last year. And good that you're bringing up gold, right? It's always a good indicator of the market getting more risk on.
Yeah, they're you know we've seen a pretty decent drop over the past couple of days, and that's usually a sign that we're getting a bit more comfortable with the conditions. I think people are panicking a lot less. I don't think it's. I think they've understood over the past week that I don't think it's gonna get much worse from here. Um, you know, Phone calls back and forth. A deal is gonna be reached sooner than later. It's in nobody's best interest. Again, like in the moment of panic, like everybody, thinks the worst of the worst, and forces them to make a decision in that specific moment, and then after a few days when that doesn't actually happen, it doesn't actually get worse. Like the logical and rational thinking comes back, and it's like, wait a minute, why did I just sell my whole retirement fund, on a whim, right? Like, it's not making much sense. I think we're just like in the process of like seeing like a market come back to um, what I want to say is like a bit more of a realistic expectation. I mean, 21% drop at a level of steepness that I would argue is even deeper than COVID. Seems irrational. Uh, doesn't mean it won't shake and bake around, right? But like at the rate we were dropping during those tariffs was incredibly like it was incredible. Like I've only seen one other time, in my entire career where I saw like panic in the sense of like this, and that was during a literal quote unquote pandemic, right? So like when we compare the two, it's that same level of steepness. It's pretty ridiculous. So we have New York Open, by the way, DB. I was wondering why our markets went nuts there for a second, but that's a almost 3% gap up here on the SP. So quite interesting.
Yeah,
Quite interesting.
I think 5,500 is a pretty big level. I want to see that reclaimed
Yeah.
for me at least. I mean that's where
5,500, you said?
yeah, that's where we rejected from on April 14th. So that marked the local top for the crypto market as well, right? We got that push up after the 90-day pause announcement, and we got a little bit of a retracement where the market printed a higher low, right? And it's been going hand in hand with quite a lot with the stock market as well. So
Um,
that's why I want to see 5,500 personally being reclaimed. That's my
okay,
my
I'm
level now.
looking at more like 5750. That would be because
Yeah,
like
okay.
price could run into there and then kind of like look weak like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, I
and
got
then
that. Got that.
it could look
I
like
got
that
that as
too.
well.
So we're looking at that, right? Again,
Yeah,
like this is like speculation that negotiations will get better. Then you find out, oh, talks break down, and it's just so convenient, right? So like we're looking at this, right? We're looking at this.
yeah. I got these two levels. My first one is 5,500, and then I agree with you, 5,700. And I think if the second one is reclaimed, we can easily speculate in a new all-time high for the S&P 500.
Oh man, Sui's gonna make me shoot myself. Like, oh man, Torben, you shouldn't have brought that up, man. Like that is so tragic, man.
We caught the Sui at 178 with the group. I've closed my position last night a bit too early, but the profits were still good, like
You got the
55%.
level I was looking at. I just
Yeah, I bought
I
there.
completely fumbled it. Like I didn't even think about it. Like I was too focused on my XRP play, and oh
No,
man, that's
that
fucking
was that was a
tragic.
really good buy, I think.
Look how tragic this one is. This one's even worse. That alert will haunt me forever. I'm keeping it there as a reminder. Like I was just waiting for this little wick, and I didn't get it. But whatever, it happens. I think I think we covered most of the macro, right? Like we haven't had any new crazy developments. We covered most of it.
Yeah, just one thing. you can take a look at how treasury yields are dropping today, and that's always a good sign for a
Oh yeah,
more
because that
risk
means
on
money's coming
environment.
back into the U.S., right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
I mean,
That's good.
two, two times we had bond and treasury markets dropping significantly in the last few weeks, and these developments were followed by positive headlines. Just something to consider in the future as well when you see similar developments in treasury markets, because they are very important, especially to the current administration. Always
I
a
mean,
possibility
that
to.
looked more like a bearish retest, right? The way that we spiked up felt more like a margin call of some sort, right? Am I crazy? That's what I thought when we originally moved up from here. It felt like someone got blown out just by the movement. Um, so that's interesting. Okay, man, the tape is going fucking bonkers today. Like this is crazy. Like, what's happening here? Holy moly, dude!
What's that?
Just look at my feed. It's just
Oh,
going nuts. We just made new highs
yeah,
off that sell off. That's crazy.
ETF inflows have also been rising quite a lot lately. But before the announcement, right, and I read an article earlier today that Trump was at a private event with some officials from J.P. Morgan, not Trump, but somebody from Trump's team, and then he said to the private audience, right, not publicly, that tariffs with China will come down, and you already saw a spike up on the S&P 500 before these news were made public. So somebody always knows, right? And front runs these news. So this shows you how much network is important, how important network is, even in stock markets.
I mean, it's been going on for a while, right? With Congress. Like, I don't know if you remember the Pelosi calls. Like, never missed. That woman never missed, not once. But now
Yeah.
that it's someone in Trump's cabinet, it's the end of the world. I literally saw Congress insider trade for the past 8 years, maybe even 4 years, without anybody batting an eye. But now that
No,
someone hears, no, it's just crazy, right?
I'm not
Because it's
just
like
with Trump.
the media is
It
all
has
about
always
now
been like
insider
this.
trading, but it's like it's been
Yeah.
going on for I don't know how fucking long. Um, Trade deal between U.S. and China, and it doesn't look like it. It looks more like a one side kind of cooling off a bit here. Yeah, tariffs likely to coming down to between 50 and 65%. Ooh, kind of a weak play. That looks kind of weak, but
Yeah, we can also argue that this has been priced in last night, right? Because we had news about tariffs coming down on China, which led to the pump in the market.
who is
And now
this?
that the news are actually in, you can argue that it could serve as a sell and news event. So unless we see an actual agreement between the two countries, I don't think it's a big headline to send us higher.
This is a
But yeah,
very
definitely good to see that there's some easement, right? That's never something bad.
yeah, it could be something behind the scenes on why they're bringing them down. Um, White House considers slashing China tariffs to de-escalate trade war. Sources say Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal, man.
Ah, don't share that with Rego.
Uh, I don't know. The way it's worded, it could be that they spoke on the phone and it's like, okay, we'll do this for you, but
Yeah,
both countries are very prideful. It doesn't seem likely that one or the other wants to admit weakness. The whole point why we got here is because of two stubborn egos, right? So it's like it's unlikely that one is just gonna so easily admit to the public that yeah, we went a bit too far. Seems more likely that there's some sort of talk behind the scenes and someone's portraying it as weakness. Like, didn't they just say for the past 48 to 72 hours that they've been on the phone nonstop negotiating and that the negotiations are going very well? It's more likely that something happened behind the scenes. More likely a negotiation. You do this for me, I do this for you. And
well, there will be
some fucking journalist trying to make their big break here takes it as a smear campaign. Something like that. Trump decided not to fire Powell. Well, he can't anyways, right? Wall Street Journal
yeah.
again. That's miswording. He can't fire anybody. He
I mean,
can't fire the
we always said that he cannot be fired by Paul, right? So we knew, regardless of what the media said, but
You see what I mean?
somehow
Like that's such a
the Yeah, but the market got kind of baited by the false information, right? Because it was also considered like,
Of
interference
course.
with an independent entity, which is never good for the market. So it's good to see that, Trump appreciates the independence of the Federal Reserve, even if he disagrees
He
with it,
cannot.
right? He
Yeah,
cannot
he
fire.
cannot fire him, and exercising legal options to see if it's possible. This shows you that he's more of a law-abiding citizen than anything, right? It's not like he's abusing of powers or anything. He's got if he doesn't have the legal route to do it, he can't do it. So much for
No,
a
he cannot.
dictator, right? Dictators don't really follow the law, so that's interesting. Um, Fire Powell, no, there's no legal way to do it.
No, I don't think he can. The president can nominate and appoint the chair of the Federal Reserve, but I don't think he can fire him or her. But in this
Suvan,
case,
what levels are you talking about here? Like break even is like right here.
he- one
I
is
don't know,
Powell
like
is
if you're already 48% off the lows, right? Like off the highs, sorry. So like that's to expect lower than what a 60% drawdown is like. Then essentially you're like perma bearish or not perma bearish, but like you're macro bear. You're essentially macro
not
bear here, and you're expecting lower. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on your outlook on the market. Do you think there's another leg here? Or do you think we're topped for the next 4 years? If that's the case, then you know, like it's me
I'm a
too.
bit
I've
triggered
had what
by 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 this comment that Powell is not performing his duties, but I'm not sure if that's a topic for the stream.
he's performing his duties. He's doing everything he can. The problem is, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's what I
yeah,
mean, right? I mean, you may or may not agree with his agenda,
I
but
definitely
he,
don't, but I do
yeah,
understand what he's doing, right? Like it is what
yeah,
it
yeah,
is,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Trump doesn't agree with him, but I don't think that's what that it doesn't mean that he's not performing his duties. Actually, I'm more Team Powell, that Rego, right? In this case,
Yeah, I'm
I
total like
I
fuck
think I
central
mean
banking to the T,
Powell,
but
man.
I yeah.
Look, man, Powell. I mean, you can think of him whatever you want, but I would never judge him based on what Biden or what Trump thinks about him, right? You have to assess his performance in the last few years on your own, independently, and you can basically not deny that Powell has led the United States through many economic crises in the last few years, right? The COVID crash, and then you had the spike up in inflation in 2021,
Yeah,
brought that back down, still not down to the Fed's target, and now you have all the trading tensions. Of course, not everybody will agree what he's doing,
it's
but
it's
I
not to
think
be fair. It's not the most easiest of circumstances. Like you like imagine getting like appointed. When was he appointed? In 2016?
during I think he was nominated by Trump in his first term, but then was appointed when Biden went into office. So when
I
was that?
mean, the economy roared into new highs. Was met with a what I want to call like a global, black swan. They suffered a bit. They took some measures. Do I think they were the right measures? I don't think he had a choice. Um, a bit of pain and turmoil. But markets did recover. Inflation was a problem. They brought it down. It continues to go down. At least over the course of the past 3 years. Um, not imagine being fucking appointed for a job and that you get hit with that. Pretty much over the past 8 years. I mean, it's not easy. Look, I'm no fucking central bank, committee supporter, but I think he's done what he's had to do to fire him. I think you need to see or to call for his resignation because you can't fire the guy. Like legally, I don't think you can. As far as I'm concerned, there's no legal way to do it. But from like a resignation point or a resignation, willful resignation due to like everybody literally calling for you to resign is a different story. I mean, there's definitely ways to pressure someone into resigning. Um, I would have to see a bit more. than what I've seen. Like right now, the stance is that look, inflation's not going to get better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He would need to change this tone of voice if it goes against his past 2 3 meetings. That's the only way I could say that Powell is no longer fit for the job, is that if his narrative were to suddenly change again, right? I saw it at the start. When was it? November 5th. The meeting right after November, right after the election was decided. A total shift and change in his narrative and demeanor, and that struck me as odd. I know me and DB talked about it on the stream for quite a bit, and then over these past few months, I do think his narrative has changed quite a bit as well. So I'm not a fan of him over the past few months. I think there's some sort of um, tension or something that goes against what he's been saying for the past 3 months. I mean, we see it in the numbers that I mean, if this is not signs of what you're looking for, then what is it, right? So these past 3 months, I think it's plausible or at least worthy of criticism, because I don't like the way he's been handling the past few months. But you need a bit more time to see if it's actually malicious or maliciously in intentions, or malicious intentions, I should say, or if it's literally because they have reason to believe it could get worse down the line, if they don't stick to their forecast. So again, like these past 2 3 months, I could see why people are a little bit uneasy about Powell's decisions. I definitely am, but I think we just need to see a bit more time. Like if we see 4 or 5 months in a row of inflation coming down, and they continue to say that interest rates are fine the way they are, then I'm going to say that there might be some politically charged decision here. But as far as I'm concerned, um, I think he's just they're following their narrative. They have plans to reduce rates sometime throughout the year, um, and that's what we should follow. If that were to change, then yes, I agree. I think he's no longer in the best interest of the USA. But even at that, as far as I'm concerned, the Federal Reserve is an entity that operates alone, right? So were they ever um, in the best interest for the USA? I don't know, right? So that's where I stand on that. But it's a speculative thing, right? It's opinion biased, right? Like DB will tell you, hey, I think Powell's doing a great job. I'll say, well, no, the fuck he isn't. He's it's almost like it's a political game in itself, right? So
Yeah, we got 10 more minutes, maybe some time to answer a few questions or comments, because I think we covered everything pretty well.
yeah, I guess we'll take the last 10 minutes to answer some questions, and keep in mind this is a macro stream, right? So we talk macroeconomics here. We can definitely
Yeah,
dive off into the crypto stuff, but again, we discuss crypto on an overall scale of things. So you know, we definitely do that. It's just for the most part, we're the only real macro stream here um, for the week. So we like to fill you guys in on what's happening on that side, and that's it. So we'll take some questions now for the last 10 minutes, because we've been talking our faces off here.
yeah.
Yeah, that headline has been shared with the White House considering slashing China tariffs. Can you speak about FOMO for a minute? Like fear of missing out?
Just zoom out and you won't feel any FOMO, man.
The
Just
FOMO. I mean, look, if you're feeling FOMO after a move like this, I ask you to take a step back, go back to the drawing board, and say, like, why do you feel compelled to buy here, and why wasn't there action taken um, much lower? And I ask you to go back, reflect. What were your thoughts? What were you thinking? Was there any plan executed way lower? And why is the decision to feel? Why does the feeling to make a decision here strike you as an immediate result? So that's like there's an error somewhere along the lines in the way you strategized and played out. I had to sit for months here buying down here. I have no intention of buying up here unless I could see like a consistent set of daily closes that assume this range low I have and range high I have is going back into play. um there has to be a reflection back on, like, well, what were you doing during the way lower prices? Why wasn't there an execution or action taken Was there any sort of confirmation that would, help you assume we'd be back up here? And if so, why wasn't it taken? Like, when it comes to FOMO, anything that compels you to make a decision based on feelings is most likely the wrong one. Um, so again, like, it's more of like a self reflection on your execution, because something goes
Um,
wrong here if you're looking to buy here and you had no intention of buying somewhere here, right? So
uh, I think in addition to that, if you feel emotions and if emotions drive you to execute something in the market, I think that's already a sign to step away from the charts, right? That's one thing. And the second thing is, especially if you're trading altcoins, look at an index like others, for instance, which measures the market cap of all mid caps, right? Just look at the daily. Just go and look into the daily and look how far away we are from December highs, and comparably how 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 much we have to erase in the next few weeks with mid caps, right? And then you realize that yes, the market has been moving, but the opportunities are basically endless, right? And the worst thing you can do right now is basically just FOMO buy, and then you get a 10% correction or a 10% flush on altcoins, which can happen at any time, and then you don't have the capital to bid that drop. And corrections or pullbacks will always happen in every market, in bull markets and bear markets, during bullish phases, during bearish phases. They will always happen. Of course, the dynamics change a bit, right? When the market shifts its trend, you cannot be too greedy with your entries to expect significant drops like we did in the last 2 weeks when everything was in a downtrend and making lower lows. Now, pullbacks can be more shallow, right? And you can speculate on higher lows being printed, but you will get your opportunities. And remember one thing: when the market also turns more bullish, there's more volume in the market. Open interests start increasing, right? Because people are more and more in leveraged positions, and this increases the likelihood of more flushes. And it is your duty to identify these areas you want to bid when that happens. So opportunities are endless, but wait for your setup and have a constructive approach to the market instead of being led by emotions. That's all I have to say to answer that question.
um all right, we have a couple questions here. Canadian election coming up. Are we becoming more crypto friendly, in spite of who gets in? Um, I'm Canadian. I don't know who's going to win that one. Seems rather impossible to decide. I don't know. I don't know if Canada has any sort of influence whatsoever. So that's my answer on that. Um, Mario Bros asks, would you buy BTC here or wait for a pullback if you missed a sub 80K buy opportunities time frame to hold this year? To why you didn't buy lower empty bank account? Look, you're the only thing I'll tell you guys is you are attempting, and what I mean by this is it's going to take a couple of days to figure out. 91,830 would be quote unquote the range low reclaim, right? It's the range low reclaim, which puts you back in a range between 106 and 91.8. So again, if we are given the consolidation here, or at least the failed breakdowns, then I assume this trend continues, follows the 200 EMA, might even deviate out a bit. But if you're on my side, um, of expecting a next leg cycle, and your time frame to hold is for the majority of the cycle, then I see anything as sub 100K. Um, being a good buy. Myself personally, I averaged in from 90,000 to 87,000. I averaged in again at 82,500, and I had an overall idea to average in between 75 and 72K, which I only got the top end of 75K, right? So I didn't manage to get 74, 73, 72, but I got 75, 82.5, and 88.5 when we consider between 90 and 87. So that's the areas I bought. So again, buying at 91.8. If it can hold, that'll be your next best long opportunity. If you have the assumption, right, that this continues, to the sky, and we're just in a sell off correction. That's my outlook on it. But again, if there was no action and plan, to average down towards the 33% drop zone, then I encourage you to have to revisit that. Um, Let me double
Yeah.
check.
Guys, I mean, if you look at the RSIs, you know, I use them a lot. A lot of stuff is heavily overbought, right? And it might it can take some time until you get a pullback, but I think the RRR is just not here to buy more. Everything is overbought. If you look at
I
something
speak
like
for
SUI,
BDC.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just talking about the altcoin side of things because I know that
yeah, that's a
people
bit
are.
more shaky. Yeah.
But Sui, for instance, I just received a 1 day RSI overbought alert for Sui, by the way, just entering overbought on the daily. You don't want to buy it when something is at an overbought area on the daily. You know, just that needs to be said clearly. We bought when everything was oversold on the daily, so wait for a 1 hour or 4 hour RSI reset if you want to be more aggressive. At least for a 30-minute RSI reset before considering buying, but do not buy at the potential top, right? We don't know if this is the local top or not. I don't think it's the macro top, but it can be a zone where some profits can be taken. So be patient with your entries now.
A couple more questions here. We actually got way more than I thought. We'll try to answer a couple more questions here. Chodo says, how exactly do we view this pump if BTC Dom is rising, but Total 2 is also rising? And shouldn't we expect alts to go down, or will BTC carry the market up along with it? So when you're seeing like another market cap go higher while BTC dominance is going up or down, a lot of this has to do with the potential gain in a short amount of time, right? Which raises the USD valuation, which takes influence away from Bitcoin's market cap. So both could be going up in unison, but one could be going up faster than the other. And in this case, the reason why Total 2 is up, Total 3 is probably outperforming is primarily the fact that dominance is down on a day like today. So it's not necessarily that money flows out of Bitcoin. It's that alts as a whole, as an entirety, grow in USD valuation, which grows against the market cap of BTC, right? So that loses dominance on the overall market itself. It's not that money is flowing out of BTC. It's not that people are rotating into alts. It's that
Yeah.
the alt gain in valuation of these in a USD format, because they're performing 3, 4, 5% higher, that market cap grows 3, 4, 5% higher in USD terms, right? So just because BTC dominance goes down doesn't mean that money's flowing out of it, or doesn't mean that money's being rotated from one side to the other. It's more indicative that a market share from the alt section is growing due to that gain in USD valuation. So hopefully that makes sense. Maybe one more question. Man, we got a lot of questions. Why are you guys asking all these
A lot
questions
of
in the last
engagement.
2 minutes?
But there was actually a lot of engagement throughout the stream, but we went just talking and talking and didn't really stop. So people just
Uh, I mean, there's one more good one that I think we'll get to, and then we'll have to cut this off. It's already 10 o'clock. MAA Plus says, do you guys prepare for a Q4 risk? I can mention way enough reasons. We have a small relief rally now, so big money can load it on retail until August. I think 22 and 23 was best time. For now, be reasonable. We're expecting rate cuts, this summer. At the very least, somewhere towards June, July, and maybe potentially August. We've already seen this move happen on the dollar, and in other markets as well. Like we've definitely seen weakness on the U.S. dollar. Where the fuck are my drawings? Okay, we've seen weakness because we were anticipating this. So it's very likely that we rally before the fact, right? So maybe a Q4 risk off scenario might be the play, but we'd have to see as we get closer to that. I don't believe in trading the seasons based on the past. I tend to look at it more as like as news unfolds. Like we've already been really really early to the idea of rate cuts. We've been able to spot this. I think I put this up here the moment we tumbled in January, right? So we'll take Q4 when we get through Q3
yeah,
first, right? Like
we're in Q2 right now, right? Like there's
yeah.
no point trying to predict what's going to happen in Q4. Just play the market level by level, macro level by macro level. If you don't want to follow the lower time frame price action, but I don't think there's any point to speculate on what's going on. Just look at what happened in the last 3 months, right? So many developments that changed the macro completely, and and at any time something can happen, right? So it's better to be more adaptive in the market instead of forming a strong bias about a certain period in the market too early and stick to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it. You can prepare for a quarter in advance, but 2 quarters in advance, it's just too much that can happen in between. It's better not to stress yourself over that and try to look for correlative, or correlations and patterns that could suggest that. We're in a very weird spot, right? We're dealing with a new presidency. We're only 3-4 months in. What happened last year could be completely different, right? So, with that being said, guys, we're out of time here. Really good stream today, if I do say so.
Yeah.
A lot of engagement, a lot of participation, a lot of questions at the end, which annoys me because we don't have enough time to answer all of them. So we're sorry if we didn't get a chance to get to it. But if you are looking, for a follow up on it, just send a message to myself or DB, whichever you're more comfortable getting an answer from, and we'll get back to you, as soon as we
Absolutely.
possibly can. DB, it's a pleasure, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for engaging and for tuning. We appreciate it as always. And
Yeah.
take care.
Thank you, guys. Awesome turnout. Awesome participation in the chat. We hope you guys learned something. We went a bit on a Powell ramble. We're sorry about that, but it happens. It happens. DB, always a pleasure. I'll see you here again next week, same time, same place.
See you guys. Enjoy your day.
All right. Take care, guys. Signing out. Pocky coming up next.